Holy buckets. Things are definitely starting to amp up when it comes to the Pokemon trading card game. I think a lot more people are getting really exciting. Surging Sparks is the next main series set that is coming out. Comes out in about a month. We're about a month away from the release of Surging Sparks, and there's some really cool looking cards in the set. I think a lot more attention is starting to get paid towards Pokemon again. But there's also some bad information that's going around, some misinformation, things like that. So this video is going over Surging Sparks information. We haven't done a video like this for a few sets because there just hasn't been a need for one. Demand for Pokemon, while it was still there, was very level with supply. It seemed like supply was actually still well over what demand looked like, but now things have kind of shifted a little bit, and as we get more information about Terrestrial Festival and the new specialty set that comes out in January, and then we've got those banger sets that are coming out next year with the Trainer Pokemon set in March and the Team Rocket Pokemon set potentially in May. I think there's going to be a lot more attention that gets paid to Pokemon again as we get closer and closer to that 30th anniversary. But the big thing to remember is that we don't have all the information yet for Surging Sparks. The next Japanese set, which is going to make up half of Surging Sparks, doesn't even come out yet until next week Friday. I think Supercharged Breaker or Super Electric Breaker, there's some confusion about what the name actually is, but it's one of those two. But we haven't even gotten all the leaks yet for that. So we're going to talk about Surging Sparks and what we know so far. And I did put leaks in here. We're going to go over the leaks, but it's not going to be until the second half of the video. So I will announce before we actually look at some of the card scans. In case you want to be surprised, in case you don't want to see anything, I will announce that so you can just kind of click off the video. But I figured it would be important to kind of go over allocation numbers because, like I said, there's misinformation out there. I don't want anybody to FOMO, anybody to make bad decisions or anything like that. You can still buy booster boxes of Surging Sparks for pre-order, for super cheap, well below MSRP, so let's not freak out too much. We do still have, so this is our new website right here. This is CorrosioShop.com. We created a second website, so we already own the Card Coliseum. I talked about this a couple times, but I do want to emphasize this is AI art right here. There's been a little bit of backlash about this logo. This is just a placeholder, and it is warranted because I honestly did not think that this would ruffle any feathers or anything like that. This is just a placeholder. We do have somebody actually designing a logo for CorrosioShop.com, so I apologize if I offended anybody or anything like that. But this is just a placeholder, so this will not stay up here. It's just taking a little bit longer than unfortunately I wanted it to take. I'm not good at logo design, at editing, at thumbnails, at any of that stuff. I've made that perfectly clear. I did post in Discord about a month ago looking for help and things like that. So unfortunately, I'm bad at all this stuff. Like, this is not a joke. I am not good at a lot of this stuff. So I wanted to put that out there so everybody knew. We do have a small amount of Super Electric Breaker boxes left for pre-order. These should ship the Monday after release. So it comes out on the 18th in Japan. We should get it like the 19th, and then we'll have these out by the 21st. Once we sell out of this, we will be able to restock more, but we are down to, I think we've only got a few cases left for Super Electric Breaker, and we will restock, but it'll ship out a few days later. So head over to CorrosioShop.com. We are constantly organizing all of our inventory, so a lot of additional things are going to be added over the next few days. We still have a lot of booster boxes in stock, as well as a bunch of fits that are going to be added, a bunch of toys, a bunch of stuff from Japan that is going to be all uploaded on this site. So check out CorrosioShop.com. Check out thecardcoliseum.com. That's my end of the sellout. Let's jump into the actual meat and potatoes of the video. So we're going to look at this. Here's the information for Surging Sparks, and there's some important information in here. So this comes out on November 8th, and the set size is something that I do want to emphasize. So 191 cards before Secret Rare. So this is going to be a big set again. Before Secret Rares, if you remember, nowadays everything's a Secret Rare, right? Outside of the double rares, which appear in the actual meat of the set. After that is done, all of your full arts, which are now called ultra rares, all of your illustration rares, all of your special illustration rares, all of your hyper rares, those are all Secret Rares. So this is going to be a very, very large set. Another important thing is we are already at 17 illustration rares. It might actually be 18 now that they released the leak for that Cerulege. It might even be 18 right now. 11 of them are from Paradise Dragona, and one of them is a promo, which means if we get the same amount of illustration rares from Super Electric Breaker as what we're getting from Paradise Dragona, you're looking at about 23, 24 illustration rares in this set. That's going to be about double the size of Stellar Crown. So you're still not looking at a set size as big as Paradox Rift and Paldea Evolved, but it will be bigger, it looks like, than Twilight Masquerade, than Stellar Crown, not a lot bigger than Twilight Masquerade or Temporal Forces, but a little bit bigger. Special illustration rares also look like they're going to be a little bit more. Should be similar to what we saw in Twilight Masquerade, maybe a little bit bigger than that. We only had like, what, 6 or so in Stellar Crown. There weren't that many, but we are already at eight special illustration rares that have been leaked to us. 5 of them are from Paradise Dragona. So that means we still probably will get a couple more that have been leaked from, or that will be leaked from Surging Sparks. Obviously, we just got the Hydreigon yesterday. That looks super cool. Very, very cool looking artwork on a lot of these cards. We'll go over them in a little bit if you haven't seen them yet, or if you don't want to see them. Obviously, I will let you know when you can click off. 3 hyper rares so far, all from Paradise Dragona. So we do have more hyper rares that are going to be coming as well from Super Electric Breaker. So we're only about halfway. Like I said, the set Super Electric Breaker, Supercharged Breaker does not come out until next Friday in Japan. So once we hit Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, we should start seeing some openings happen over in Japan, which will give us more information about what the remaining special illustration rares look like and the remaining hyper rares look like. We are already at 8 A specs. That should be all of them. We shouldn't get any more A specs unless they leak another one all of a sudden, but 8 A specs is the most that we've gotten in a set so far. Remember, these just started with Temporal Forces, so we've only had Temporal Forces, Twilight Masquerade, and Stellar Crown, the most recent set, plus Shrouded Fable, the half set, which have had A specs so far. So A specs are a newer mechanic to the game, like what we had back in the Black and White generation. This set will have 8 of them, which it feels like an additional hit, which is kind of cool. Kind of replaces what we had when we had those Radiant cards at the end of Sword and Shield. So 8 A specs so far. That's the most we've had in a set so far. So here is some allocation numbers. I want to give some allocation information because there is a lot of confusion going on as far as how Pokemon is printing things right now. So I do think Pokemon is taking a step back when it comes to printing things, but I think it really only impacts booster boxes, which we'll talk about in a second. We received full allocations, all allocation information from all of our distributors. We're going to start looking at the Elite Trainer box, which we received every single copy that we requested. We actually upped our order in Elite Trainer boxes quite a bit, almost double the amount that we normally get, and we got all of them. So we're looking at the prices as far as pre-order goes over the past month. Once Surging Sparks pre-orders started going live on TCG Player, it started out right around $48. It's dropped about 15% already, down to about $41. Elite Trainer boxes, seems like there's just an endless supply of Elite Trainer boxes. Right now, at distribution, you can still find basically every single Elite Trainer box from the Scarlet and Violet era is still in stock at distribution. So you can still order a lot of them. The main caveat behind Elite Trainer boxes is this is a product that is sold everywhere. This is a product that is sold to wholesale or to brick and mortars. It's sold to LGSs, and then it's also sold to marketing companies that stock these big box stores and the big box retailers themselves, who then will ship from their online hubs, their online distribution center. So Elite Trainer boxes are created a lot more than a lot of other products because they are just sold every single outlet that you could possibly get. So 100% of the allocation, everything that we requested, we are receiving. 100% allocation is being received on everything else except for booster boxes. So booster bundles, which obviously this is just an image off of the Pokemon Center website. They will not look like this. They will still look like the square ones that we're used to now. 3-pack blisters, sleeve boosters, the check lane boosters, and I wasn't going to go over the actual graph as far as pricing goes. Build and battle boxes, 100% allocation. We upped our order on all of this stuff. We are getting 100% of it. We are past the days where you're getting allocated on every product substantially. It seems like Pokemon has done a really good job of printing to demand, and I think that they're going to continue doing that. That's why it's so important not to FOMO, not to listen to a lot of the hype that talks about things being short printed or underprinted or anything like that. The main problem that we're going to run into is booster boxes. It does seem like maybe Pokemon is printing a little bit less than this, or at least distributing a little bit less than this to big box stores or to wholesale LGSs, places like that. So we are only receiving 71% of our order that we requested, which is still really good. Now, let me make sure that I give you enough information about this. So we over-ordered on this set. We ordered more than we have for any other set ever. We ordered quite a bit of booster boxes, and we're getting 71% of what we requested. Now, that 71% is very level with what we got for Stellar Crown. It's very level for what we got for Twilight Masquerade. So we are getting basically the same amount of booster boxes that we get normally for a set release. Unfortunately, we're not getting more. So we requested more because as we continue to grow, or as we continue to try to grow, we order more products so that way we can, grow our allocation numbers, especially moving into next year. Unfortunately, we're not getting that much, or we're not getting as much as we requested. We're still getting as much as what we normally get. Now, I did reach out to distribution. I said, hey, is there any more that you think you might have, or any more that you might be able to give? And unfortunately, right now, it doesn't seem that way. So it is very possible that a lot of distributors have already put out their full allocation numbers to LGSs. So your LGS might be getting less than what they normally got, or they might be getting the same amount as what they normally get. They might not be getting a lot extra, which means we might run into a Twilight Masquerade situation where after the set comes out, there is not any additional booster boxes at distribution until Pokemon decides to reprint it. So it might be sold out. I don't want to say that for now, but as of right now, it does not look like there's going to be a lot of distributors that are going to have backstock. Unfortunately, when we look at the sets that have released so far throughout the Scarlet and Violet era, distributors still have a lot of Scarlet and Violet base. They probably still have a lot of Paradox Rift. Temporal Forces, which just got an additional restock. Paldea Evolve got restocked recently. Those are available, but at higher price points. Same thing with Obsidian Flames. Stellar Crown is still available at a little bit higher of a price point than what it normally is, but I think that one's starting to dwindle down. It seems like Pokemon is kind of backing off on the booster boxes a little bit, and part of the reason behind that, at least my theory, and you can let me know in the comment section down below what you think is, at least my theory is just because they're trying to get away from this a little bit outside of maybe what they sell on their own website. So maybe they're cutting back. It does have a much higher price point. So if you look at things, the MSRP for a Surging Sparks booster box, or for any booster box for that matter in the Scarlet and Violet era, is right around $160, which is much more expensive than, an Elite Trainer box, which retails for $40 to $50. So the fact that it is so much more expensive than all these other products means that it probably takes a lot longer for them to sell to the end consumer, especially with their target demographic being younger. And because of that, I don't know if they're just printing less. They're also starting to source a lot more of them to big box retailers. At least they were at the beginning of the Scarlet and Violet era. So you might see a situation. Now, there are still a lot of places out there accepting pre-orders for $100, $105. You can get them by the case for like $580 to $600. But I do think that once we get through, unless it gets reprinted, and I will keep you posted on if it gets reprinted or restocked, very, very close to the release day or after the release day, we might see a situation like Twilight Masquerade where it hovers right around $110, $115 up until release day, and then after that starts increasing in price. So we can see right now it's already holding better than what we've seen from a lot of the other Scarlet and Violet sets. It's sitting at about $115 right now on TCG Player, which is about 20% lower than what it started out at, but it's been sitting at that price point for the last few weeks now, and it looks like it's going to stay relatively level to that price point for the next several weeks, especially as more and more people start buying their pre-orders. So it is something worth noting. There are big box stores that are still selling it, so you can go to GameStop, for example, as a pro member, and you can get it for $123.49. It is in stock for pre-order right now. This never used to happen where GameStop would carry booster boxes of product, especially not before Scarlet and Violet, but they do have them available. They do not currently have them available, but it is coming soon on Best Buy's website. The big thing was I did not see any pre-order or any option on Walmart, on Target, on Amazon. And usually, and it could have just, might have been looking in the wrong spot. Usually you do see those big box retailers selling stuff, but Best Buy is charging $161, which obviously is MSRP. Maybe they're cutting back on these booster boxes because they haven't been selling for anywhere close to MSRP throughout the entirety of Scarlet and Violet so far. So maybe a lot of these big box retailers, like I said, when we were just talking recently about the restocks that just happened for Temporal Forces, Paradox Rift, Obsidian Flames, and Twilight, and Paldea Evolve, maybe those were backstocks from a lot of big box retailers that kind of just get outsourced back to Pokemon and then outsourced over to brick and mortar distributors instead because they couldn't move at MSRP, at these big box retailers. I'm sure there's some kind of agreement that they have, and maybe if somebody knows more than I do, they can comment down below. But I do think Pokemon might be backing off booster boxes a little bit, but your allocation numbers seem like they're going to be fairly stable. So I think it's just going to be more of this is going to be more of a demand set than what we've seen in the past. So don't freak out, don't FOMO, don't do anything like that. Obviously, we're going to have Surging Sparks in format for, a couple years. So the chances and likelihood of Pokemon reprinting this set at some point in the future is going to be very, very high. And the other thing to remember is there is going to be a ton of Surging Sparks. So if you're somebody who just really likes cracking booster boxes, it might be a little bit more difficult, but you are going to be able to find plenty of Surging Sparks product out there at discounted rates outside of booster boxes. When would surprise me if we saw Surging Sparks Elite Trainer boxes, you know, drop down to $30, $32, $35, somewhere around there. And then you're going to be able to find booster bundles, build and bat, all this stuff, you know, for very cheap prices compared to what MSRP is, much closer to what we see for the standard Scarlet and Violet era stuff right now. So booster boxes might be a little bit less printed or very close to printed as what we've seen throughout Scarlet and Violet. I think the demand is just going to be much, much higher. A lot of people have talked about skipping Stellar Crown, skipping Shrouded Fable because they're saving up for Surging Sparks and they're saving up for every set that's coming out next year. It's going to be absolutely nuts. So I wanted to make sure to put that out there so that way you can make the best decision when it comes to spending your collecting dollars. If you don't buy them, a booster box, if you can't find one for $100, maybe you just transition to a different product and you can probably find an equal amount of booster packs for that $100 price point if you're going to crack them open anyway. So with that being said, we're going to look at some important information as far as the leaks go and things like that. So if you want to stop watching the video right now because you don't want to see any of the leaks, now is the time to click off because we are going to look at some of the stuff. And some people like to just kind of wait until the set releases. They don't like following any of that stuff, so that way when they're opening Surging Sparks for the first time, they can be pleasantly surprised with some of the artworks that they see. So I wanted to make sure that I gave fair warning for all of that before we jump into things. The first thing that I want to jump in, we're going to look at justinbasil.com. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at this website before. We've used it before on this channel. It's a great resource for not only card leaks, but a lot of information about deck building and things like that. If you have ever thought about playing the game competitively or just want to look at proxies, and like, this is a great website. So we're going to look at some of the leaks that are coming out that are already made into proxies, just kind of looking at the competitive impact that might have. So a lot of trainer cards, we talk about a set's value a lot, and the important thing is not really how valuable or how big the chase cards are, the special illustration rares and the hypers and things like that, because those are so difficult to pull, right? You got to open up a ton of booster packs or get extremely lucky. The big thing is these cards right here, the ancillary cards, the cards that are a lot easier to pull. You look at a set like Stellar Crown, for example, and Stellar Crown is a decent set because that Terapagos has some value associated with it. And the Terapagos double rare is a lot easier to pull than the Terapagos special illustration rare. You know, you pull more copies of double rares than you do special illustration rares. We look at Shrouded Fable, and that Pheasantipity still has a lot of value associated with it, or Paradox Rift, or Twilight Masquerade with the Iron Hands in Paradox Rift, and Twilight Masquerade having the Teal Mask Ogerpon. Those are cards that you pull a little more frequently, but Paradox Rift is a better set to open because you can also pull cards like Counter Catcher, which has a little value associated with it, and Earthen Vessel, which has a little value associated with it, whereas Twilight Masquerade, none of the trainer cards really have a whole lot of value, so these trainer cards can make a big deal. You look at some of these like Amped Amphitheater, basic Pokemon in play get plus 30 HP, probably not going to be a stadium card that gets used too much. Clamont's Quick Thinking, heal 60 damage from one of your lightning Pokemon. It's going to be very specific to lightning decks, probably not going to be used too much. The Colbur Berry, probably not going to be used too much because it's only impacted by a specific type of Pokemon, so even if it does get used, it's not going to be used in every deck that's out there. Counter Gain, this is something that is a reprint card. There are counter gains that are already in existence. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, the attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to cost one colorless energy less. That could be used a little bit, but probably not going to be something that's a staple in a lot of decks. Search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon EX, reveal them, and put them into your hand. This is something that does have potential down the road. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a little bit niche to decks that are only running EX cards, and you might have a lot of decks right now that are not, you know, they're just single prize attackers that might not have a whole lot of ultras in the set. Obviously, we still have V cards that are active in rotation. That's going to change in a few months, so this is something that maybe you want to keep an eye out for in the future. It's kind of like a Bridget, but the Bridget was more focused on basic Pokemon. This is specific to Pokemon EX, so probably not going to be as big of a deal. The Dragon's Potion, heal 60 damage from your active Dragon Pokemon. Obviously, Dragon being a thing with Paradise Dragona being a big part of this set. Probably not going to be that big of a thing because it's very niche. Only for dragon type decks. The Drasna, shuffle your hand into your deck, flip a coin. If heads, draw 8 cards. If tails, draw 3 cards. Kind of reminds you of that Professor Birch where you risk it for the biscuit. Drayton right here, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Pokemon and a trainer card you find there, put them into your hand, shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Not too bad. It could be okay in the future. We'll see how it does. Dusk Ball, look at the bottom 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Pokemon you find there and put it into your hand, shuffle the other cards back into your deck. That's not too bad. That could be splashable in the future, which isn't bad. We're not going to go over the A specs, but Gravity Mountain, Stage 2 Pokemon in play get minus 30 HP. That could be okay for kind of a disruption type deal. Helper Bell, you have to go second and only on your first turn. Those never really work out too great, but when they do work, there are 4 of them in every deck. Search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. That's going to be a little bit niche. Here's Jasmine's Gaze. During your opponent's next turn, each of your Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. That could be important, but again, a little bit more niche. And these are important to kind of go through because these are, when you want to find the trainer cards that are obviously going to be played in pretty much every single deck, where a lot of these are very, very niche, except Lucia's Appeal, which could serve a very good purpose in the competitive meta. Switch in one of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon to the active spot. The new active Pokemon is now confused. So this is something that's kind of like a Boss's Orders or a Lysander, but additional condition right here with the confusion, which could be something that's very important in the metagame in the near future. Obstructive Letter, your opponent counts the cards in their hand, shuffles them, and puts them on the bottom of their deck. Then they draw a card for each card they put on the bottom of their deck, kind of like an Iono right there. The Pasho Berry is specific to water Pokemon, so that's probably going to be very more niche. The Relaxing Teaser, another one of those cards, which is really only impactful if you go second and only on your first turn. Put an energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon into their hand. Again, more of a disruption type deal right here. The Scramble Switch could be a big deal. Scramble Switch was a big deal this is one of the better specs that was printed during the Black and White era. The Surfer, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. That might not be too terrible. Then we've got the Fluorite right here. Discard all energy from this Pokemon, then heal all damage from your Terra Pokemon. And the Terra Orb, search your deck for a Terra Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. I think that might be all of them, or at least close to all of them. That is all of them. Okay, so that is all the trainer cards. There's a few in there that could see some potential, especially like the Lucia's Appeal. So that's something that really, when you're opening up your Surging Sparks, you want to make sure, I recommend to everybody, sort your cards as you're opening. It adds a little bit of extra time, and I know it's not always the funnest thing to do, but leave a pile for your trainer cards. You never know what's going to happen. I can tell you from experience, I have seen cards go from 30 cents in value to $11 in value basically overnight as soon as they start getting played a lot more. So it's important to have access to those, and the last thing you want to do is dig through thousands of bulk just trying to find trainer cards to sort those out to help grow your collection. So sort as you open. That's the best thing that I can possibly recommend. Here are these are just absolutely stunning right now. This set looks like it's going to be really, really cool. We've got the illustration rares lined up right here, starting out with the Execute, the Vivillon right there, Shiinotic right there looks really, really cool. The Cast Form, this is the Cerulege, which just recently got leaked. Looks absolutely amazing. Cerulege is a very, very cool Pokemon, and the artwork on this is just absolutely stunning. The Phoebus right here, and I've seen a lot of people talk about the Phoebus lining up with the Melodic, which is an SIR or an SAR. In Japan, the artwork matches up perfectly as far as the illustration goes, so it's like another, like a Gimme Ghoul, Golden Goal line where the cards match up and they form a bigger picture, which is really, really cool. We've got the Spheal, which actually just came out earlier today, so shout out to Justin Basil on keeping things updated super fast. We just got information on this. Spheal, very cool looking card. Even the Bruxis right here, which Bruxis isn't, the most popular Pokemon in the world, but it looks really neat. This Cetitan right here, which is really neat. The Latios, obviously a lot of people are going to be very excited for the Latias and Latios. The Latias coming as an SIR. Here's the Mesprit right here and the Vibrava. The Clavipus, which is really neat. This is the Alolan Dugtrio line right here. Illustration was done by the same person who did the Pinsir in, I think it was Twilight Masquerade, which is really neat. And then the Turtonator in Stellar Crown. I think it was in Stellar Crown that we saw the Turtonator, or it might have been Shrouded Fable, but very cool looking card right here. Alolan Dugtrio with its cool hair. The Skarmory line with the rainbow in the background is absolutely sublime. Then you've got the Flapple, the Appleton, and the Bravery right here. So these are the illustrations that we have so far, and I would expect to see another few that get released over the next few days. Here are your full art cards right here. Not too many of them so far. You're looking at only about 7 of them that have been leaked. Again, most of these are going to be from Paradise Dragona, with the exception of the Pikachu right here. That is going to be in the Surging Sparks or the Supercharged Breaker, but the Black Kyurem EX is obviously really cool. Then we've got the Latias, the Alolan Executor, the Archaludon, the Flygon right there, and the Cyclizar right there, which is really, really neat. And then your full art supporters right here. If we move on to the special illustration rares, these are absolute bangers right here. You've got the Melodic right here. I know people aren't too crazy about the Pikachu. I think the more I look at it, the better I think it looks. I think it's going to look really great in person. The Latias is going to be a fan favorite for a lot of people. This is the Hydreigon right here, which just got dropped yesterday. It is absolutely stunning. I think it's going to look so good in person with the Terra Orb in the background. Looks really neat. The Archaludon right there, and then we've got the Alolan Exeggutor, which is my chase for the set. I think it looks, I mean, this is just a Christmas palm tree right here, which looks so cool. Then you've got the Drayton and the Lucia. These look very, very good, very clean, and I think there's going to be a lot of demand for this set. And then over here, you've got the Counter Gain Hyper Rare. You've got the Jet Energy Hyper and the Alolan Exeggutor Hyper Rare. The set looks really good, and this isn't even everything yet. So we're going to get more information, obviously, next week as Super Electric Breaker or Supercharged Breaker gets opened up, and then the release of that is next Friday. So head over to CrowShop.com if you want to pick up your pre-order copy of Supercharged Breaker. With that being said, guys, I hope I gave you some valuable information, at least somewhere in this. I'm very excited for Surging Sparks. I think it's going to be great. I think Pokemon is in a very good spot right now. Really at the end of a generation. We've seen this happen so many times over the past several generations, starting with Sun and Moon, where we started getting those tag teams and the alternate arts and things like that at the end of the Sun and Moon era, which kind of really saved things for Pokemon. And then moving into Sword and Shield, obviously we had the introduction of the Trainer Gallery for the last several sets of Sword and Shield, which really helped things. And now here we are in Scarlet and Violet, starting to see some absolute bangers get thrown out there as we start nearing in on the end of the Scarlet and Violet generation. Very, very cool stuff. I hope you liked the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. But ultimately, thank you so much just for being here, for listening to me talk about Pokemon. I love this stuff. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. I'll talk to you again tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace!